What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to Sunday night's late night agenda. I just want to take a second at the start of the stream to just remember what a batshit crazy week this has been. Over the past 7 days, we were sitting here last Sunday doing our stream and the news start breaking about the Super League. Since then, we've had the Super League come and go. We've had a draw against Leeds. We've had a draw again at the weekend. It's been one hell of a tumultuous week. So I just want to take a second to just chill, calm down for a minute, and then we'll get stuck into tonight's stream because, wow, what a week in the world of football, ladies and gentlemen. It's been nuts. And just when you think they couldn't get any more nuts, more stuff starts coming out. There has been an offer, just again, we didn't do a stream last night because we had to watch along and we had a post-match show, but there has been an offer given to our owners of about 3 billion quid to sell the club. Now, I want to make a couple of things clear. Apparently, the vultures are circling and there are a few more interested parties out there that may want to try and test our owners' resolve, for want of a better phrase. Now, this offer that we're speaking about, the 3 billion quid offer, yes, billion. Remember, they bought the club for about just under 300 million. Shows you how far it's come in the 10, 11 years they've owned the club. But the offer was rejected. Now, the offer was put out there before Liverpool decided to join the European Super League, at least before that news went public. So I don't know how the owners feel right now after the week of a massive PR gaffe that they've had after John W. Henry having to make that video apologising to Liverpool fans, and after having fan groups and pundits and commentators and everybody of the like having a little bit of a correct bitch and moan about the situation. From what I've been told, the owners have no intention of selling. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't sell. But what I've been told, people I've spoken to over the past couple of days have said that even with the interest is there, and I'm sure you've read articles saying this as well, it would take an astronomical offer, a ridiculous amount of money for Liverpool's owners to consider selling the club. The plan is to continue on the way that we spoke about before. They plan on adding other franchises or clubs or whatever the hell, whatever way you want to word it. That's what they plan on doing. Feeder clubs, other bits and pieces. 3 billion though. I mean, all I know about the offer is what you guys know. That it came from a Middle and Eastern part of the world. That's all I know. I don't know anything else. But a couple of things I want to say about the owners before we push on, talk about transfers and stuff, ladies and gentlemen. One, the Super League's not going to go away. This isn't done and dusted. They will regroup. They will go back with Florentino Perez and they will revisit this. Whether they rename it, rebrand it, whatever they want to do with it, they will be revisited at some point. So we've got to keep up our end of it. And our end of it is keeping the pressure on the owners. And not just our owners, on the owners of all the Premier League's big six. I struggle to call them a big six. Spurs losing another final today. We'll get to that a little bit later on as well. But there are other people interested in the club as well. We've seen Gary Neville call on the government again to legislate football to... I don't know if we'll get to the 50+1 rule. I got to be really honest with you. I don't know how this works. I know how the 50+1 rule works, but I don't know how it would work in English football with the valuations of the clubs and the way the culture is. So what the government will or won't do, that remains to be seen. But I'm still steadfast that I want FSG out of the football club. There's no coming back from me for what they did. But I want to caveat that because I'm not just going to sit here and say FSG outsell the club. It isn't that simple. And anybody who thinks it's that simple, I believe, is being a little bit naive. And here's why I don't think it's so simple. Let's say, for instance, FSG cave in tomorrow and John W. Henry and Tom Werner and all the other people involved with FSG say, fuck it. I want to sell the club. I want to cash in. I'm going to get as much money as possible. The most likely of the 2 or 3 options that are out there could be either we sell it to somebody maybe with oil money or Middle Eastern money, we sell it to a government backed entity, maybe somebody like a Chinese state backed thing, or we sell it to an investment capital firm or an investment bankers or vulture funds or whatever the hell you want to call them. And none of those seem that palatable to me. Also, we have to think about it from this point of view. We may have owners that have fucked us over at times. We may have owners that have gone behind our backs and done a lot of wrong stuff. The £77 match day ticket, the furloughing of staff, the try to trademark Liverpool from a footballing context, the Project Big Picture, and now the Super League. But all of that being said, we still have to be really careful. And as I said, I want to reiterate, I want them out of the football club and I won't forgive them. But we still have to move forward, and we still have to plan for next season, and we still have to look at what Jurgen Klopp needs, and that still has to be addressed. So I want to get that out there at the start of the stream, because Robbie Fowler's been on the record as saying that he thinks that FSG should sell. I think that they should sell. I'm guessing a lot of you guys think that they should sell, but we are in a position where I don't put them in the same bracket as the Glazers, and here's why. Manchester United was bought by the Glazers via a leverage buyout. I'm sure most of you guys know what a leverage buyout is. If you don't, here's what happened. So they went to JP Morgan, the Glazer family, and said, we want to buy Manchester United. The club's worth, let's just throw a figure, I don't actually know what it was sold for at the time, let's say £1 billion. So they say, I want to buy Manchester United Football Club for £1 billion. So they put up very little of their own money. They took out basically a mortgage against Manchester United. That mortgage has got really high interest rates, or very significant amounts of money that they have to pay back, on top of the fact that Manchester United is a public traded company on the stock exchange. So they have to pay out dividends to shareholders and stuff like that as well. So that club is being absolutely milked, which is why I understand and I feel for Manchester United fans who are out there protesting right now about the way their club is being run. The way our owners have come in has been different. Now again, please don't take this as me being an apologist for FSG, because I want them out of the club like everybody else. But they have come in. We can talk about transfer spend, and I understand you and I hear you on that and I'm with you. But they have come in and they have done a lot of good stuff as well. They have given us a league title. They have brought us a European Cup. They have got us a Club World Cup. But how far does that go? I think this is the big question we all need to ask ourselves, because I'm sure a lot of you are struggling with a few things like I am. Will you buy shirts next season? Is that supporting the club, or is that supporting the owners? Do you feel like you want to go over to a game next year? Will there be walkouts to stadium? Are the owners just going to ride this out and think that we'll all forgive and forget? So much stuff that we don't know, ladies and gentlemen. But it's going to be one hell of a summer. That's what I will say. So I'll let you guys make up your own opinion. All I want is the same as you. I want Liverpool to be competitive on the pitch. I want Liverpool to be moving forward in the right direction. I want Jurgen Klopp to be our manager, and I want players to be brought in that Jurgen Klopp wants. After that, I'm just like anyone else, a fan. But what I will say is, don't mind the PR spin. The apology to me was useless. I don't buy it for 1 second. That was just PR at its best. But I want to move on. JP Morgan have the money to buy us all, said Jens. Look, yes, they are an investment capital. Right, what do we want to talk about? We get straight into transfers, because I know a lot of you guys came in to talk about transfers, so let's have a look at transfers. Starting off with somebody who had been linked to Liverpool Football Club, Rodrigo de Paul of Udinese. From my understanding of it, Rodrigo de Paul is very close to agreeing a deal to join AC Milan. So we can maybe put that one to bed, although it hasn't been done just yet. So we'll move on from that. We'll talk about a midfielder that is at Liverpool Football Club right now, and that's Naby Keita. Now, James Pearce has come out and said that Naby Keita wants to stay at Liverpool and fight for his place. Again, I understand that, and I understand why Liverpool might be reluctant to sell him when he's had another injury-plagued season. So I get that a lot of you guys will be out there going, sell, 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 and I'm with you. But what we think as fans, in theory, and what's practical, are a couple of different things. So Liverpool won't want to lose a lot of money from Naby Keita. We did pay a good chunk for him when we bought him. So there is that to take into account. And in a COVID world, particularly just coming out of that world, who's going to have the money to pay the money that Michael Edwards would want for Naby Keita? Or who'd be willing to stump up that type of dough? I would suggest it's probably best to give Naby another season, hope that it works out, and then reassess the situation, because probably football finances will be a little bit stronger a year down the line. So that's my take on that one. I do want to come into the chat and see how everybody's feeling, because I've got a lot to get through tonight, and I want to give you guys a chance to get your opinions across as always. Right, what have we got? Dembele we'll get to. We'll talk about that. Right, Maverick, there's a comment. Let's start with that one. Maverick said, sell Naby, Shaqiri, Origi, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Matip. You've sold Oxlade-Chamberlain twice there, but okay, we'll move on. Sancho, Daka, DePaul, Kabak, Kanate. Right. Let's go through them. Naby Keita, we've just covered, so we'll push that to one side. Shaqiri and Origi are available to be bought. I've said that for a long time. It's just a matter of Liverpool getting the money that they want. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Joel Matip are two very interesting ones, who I actually agree with. I would say yes, if the offers come in, sell both of them. Because Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is 2 seasons now where I basically haven't seen anything from him. With regards to Joel Matip, that will lead on to the conversation around the centre backs, which could be a bit of good news for people, because there is a lot of talk out there that not only are Liverpool going to sign Ibrahima Konate, which I told you guys the other day, that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. The medical and all has to be done, but you can mark that one off as, unless something drastic happens with regards to the medical, Liverpool are going to sign him. Then everybody's attention turned to what happens with Ozan Kabak. It looks like news that's coming out suggests that Liverpool want to buy both the players. Now, will Liverpool go back to Schalke and try and renegotiate a lower price? You know, I probably wouldn't respect Michael Edwards if he didn't. That's the type of thing you'd expect them to do. Schalke relegated from the Bundesliga, in financial peril. And look, we might not like it, but these are the situations when you do put the squeeze on. So I like to think that we'll get both of those guys. I like to think that he'll be made a long-term signing. The clause will be triggered, or we'll agree to deal with Schalke, so we'll bring in Kabak. And then we have Konate. Then we have Gomez. Then we have Van Dijk. Then it gets interesting. So what do you do then with Joe Matip? How easy would it be to sell somebody who's in his early 30s, that has an injury record, that just signed a new contract at Liverpool Football Club recently enough? Or do you move on Phillips? Yes, that's going to happen. Phillips has done himself no harm, been a great servant this season, and he deserves to go and have a career elsewhere. Because let's be honest, with the system we play, he's not the best player to play in our system. He's doing a job right now. He's as honest as the day is long, and I really do have a high regard for Nat Phillips and the effort he's put in. But he will move on. Then what happens with the younger players? Couple of loans. Sepp van den Berg currently at Preston North End. Probably going to extend that loan for another season by the looks of it. People saying Dembele. We'll get back to Dembele, I promise you. I do have the stuff on Dembele, and I will go through it in a few minutes. I just want to get your thoughts around the centre-back situation first, folks. Davies. People saying Davies, Craig. Davies. Ben Davies seems like almost a transfer that didn't happen. But what I believe will happen with Ben Davies is that he will be given a move. So if Ben Davies wants to go and join Celtic at the end of the season or wherever, it's important to remember he would have been a free transfer at the end of the season. So he was going to sign a pre-contract agreement with Celtic. I fully believe that Ben Davies will sign up to go somewhere at the end of the season, and Liverpool will charge a nominal fee for him and won't stand in his way. Because even with not having Phillips, Klopp still wouldn't play him. He still went for Fabinho. And an interesting point on that, and something that only came to my mind yesterday after we dropped another 2 points, which in my opinion has ended our top 4 hopes this season. And you know me, I'm an optimistic person, but I can't in good conscience sit here and say I believe that we're going to get top 4 when we went into this week having been given a few lifelines, threw away points at Leeds. Leeds deserved their draw, but we threw them away from the point of view if we went 1-0 up, didn't see the game out. And then at Newcastle yesterday, that was a shambles of the highest order. So I can't in good conscience sit here and say, well, we're going to win 5 games and Liverpool's going to drop points. Because we haven't had that run of consistency all throughout the year. And nothing makes me believe that will happen right now. But what did come to my mind was the fact that Fabinho had been pushed back to centre-back for 2 games after he'd been moved back into midfield. And we went on a run of 3 games. Gets pushed back into defence. And guess what? We lose 4 points over the course of a week. That didn't go unnoticed to me, and I'm sure it didn't go unnoticed to a lot of you guys, because Fabinho snuffs out trouble a bit further up the pitch, and we don't get into defensive situations that we're in when Fabinho's a little bit further ahead protecting the back 4. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'd like to see Klopp address ahead of the United game. Whether we've got Phillips back or not, I want Fabinho playing in midfield, because he offers protection to that back 4, offers a shield, and is good at breaking up play and turning over possession for us in midfield. Loads of people asking about Bissouma as well. Again, we know that Liverpool are interested in Yves Bissouma. I can absolutely confirm that. Any journalist you speak to will confirm that. Whether that's going to be the option that Liverpool go to or not remains to be seen. Renato Sanchez, another name that hasn't gone away and won't go away. He's in action right now, actually, against Lyon. Last time I checked, Lyon were 1-0 up in that game, by the way, but he is in action today in that game. Another name, Yves Bissouma, Brighton midfielder. There's talk that they're going to want around £40 million from him, and honestly, I think that's a fair fee. I've no doubt that Liverpool will try and negotiate it down if they do go in for, but I think 40 million for Bissouma sounds about fair. Because if you think about it, he's a Premier League player coming from a Premier League club. So you're going to pay, let's say, 10 to 15% over the odds minimum. So he's probably a 30 to 35 million pound player. So I would say that seems like a fair enough price to me. And as a replacement for Gini Wijnaldum, that's probably the option I'd like to see Liverpool exercise. Now, I know a lot of people are going to talk to me about young players, about Camavinga, who I think has also been linked to Manchester United. He is a midfielder who, and I've done my research on this because I told you I would, who last season was playing a lot more in a holding midfield role. This season is playing a lot more in a box-to-box type role. Now, I wonder if he's the type of player that United will look at, because they have Fred, they have Matic there, Matic getting on in age as well. I wonder if that's the type of player that they'd look to bring in. Or will Liverpool look to go with Gravenberch, the guy from Ajax, another young kid, same age, 18 years of age, another good prospect. But will Jurgen Klopp want to replace a senior pro like Gini Wijnaldum with an untested 18-year-old in the Premier League? I'm not saying they're untested because they both played football at a high level, Gravenberch and Camavinga, but both undoubted talents. Didier Deschamps speaks openly about his admiration for Camavinga and how good he thinks he can become. Gravenberch, if you make it through with Ajax, you've got to have something about you. But I don't know if I'd be comfortable with us moving Gini Wijnaldum on at the end of the season and bringing in Yves Bissouma. It's something that just makes more sense to me than, I would be comfortable with Yves Bissouma, but not the other two yet. Now, if we were to bring in the other two and an experienced midfielder, no problem. But I just get the feeling that we're going to go for somebody in the 23 to 26 years of age category for the midfield position. That's just my guess at it. Loads of people say Florian Neuhaus from Gladbach is somebody that actually an agent friend of mine messaged me about Neuhaus. His stats look decent, but I don't watch enough of Gladbach, so I'm judging based off numbers only, so probably not the best way to judge this. So I'm going to hand over to you guys for any information you have on Neuhaus or what you think about him. And again, he is another name that you've correctly pointed out to me, folks, that hasn't gone away and has been linked to the club. Thoughts on Thiago, said Ronan. I'm baffled that he was taken off against Newcastle. Absolutely astonished. Probably our best midfielder. Actually, definitely was our best midfielder in the game. And when you have a 1-0 lead, you want to keep the ball. Who else do you want on the pitch? So, a little bit astonished he was taken off, to be quite frank. And we allowed Newcastle back into the game. But what's criminal and what's completely unacceptable is the way we capitulated again yesterday. So, whatever we think about this season, it's been a shit show from start to finish. We can talk about the injuries and all of that stuff, but we went into this, and it's important to put it into perspective. We went into this looking to maintain a good run in the Champions League and to try and retain the Premier League title. We got off to a really good start, even after the injuries, even after Van Dijk was out, even after Thiago got his injury as well. We were still top in December. And from December, here we are sitting here in April, and we are, 6th, 7th? Depending on what way the fixtures are going today. That's not good enough. I'm sorry, but that's just not good enough. And there has to be a solution to this. And it will be easy and lazy of me to sit here and say, well, we've got Gomez coming back, we've got Van Dijk coming back, we've got Henderson coming back. Granted, but Henderson ain't getting any younger. He's picked up a fair few knocks as well. And what the really distressing part is, outside of our 35-year-old James Milner, I've not seen a leader on that pitch. None whatsoever. James Milner is a leader, has those qualities, but when Gini's been given the armband, I've not seen him gone out there and lead. So I'm a little bit annoyed at how the season's petered out. We've ended up potentially in Champions League, or very unlikely in Champions League, more likely in the Europa League, and heaven forbid in the Europa Conference League. Imagine being the defending champions and ending up in the fucking Europa Conference League next season. The first season it starts as well. So there's all that to take into account, and at the end of the day, we're right to be annoyed by this season. Is it Klopp's fault? And to some extent, yes. Some of his decisions have been questionable. Is it the players' fault? Absolutely, it's some of their fault. Yes, without doubt, too many of them haven't shown up this season. Too many of them have missed too many opportunities. Too many of them look mentally and physically fatigued. And is it the owner's fault? Absolutely yes, particularly when it comes to the centre-back situation. We knew on the first day of January that we should have been going out there and adding in a centre-back. It was already a risk. Now, a risk that I have to be honest, I'm a bit of a hypocrite, because I did say I understand not replacing Dejan Lovren if it meant we got Thiago and Diogo Jota. I can't rewrite history. I did say that at the time, but I think you guys will agree with me that none of us could see a situation where all of our senior centre-backs were going to be out. The 3 that we had left at the club, all at the same time, all for long spells. So, with that in mind, we went into January and we didn't address it till the very end of the window. And what happened in that month? Our league title defence went out the window. We were out of domestic cup competitions. Champions League's the Champions League. I think, we did as well as we could in that. We should have gotten through against Madrid. I think we're a better team than Madrid, but we didn't take our chances. Madrid did. Fair play to them. They move on. But I think we're right as fans to be pissed off. And I think we're right that we want some change this summer. So I want to approach this stream in a bit of a different way. Let's all just put on our grown-up pants for a minute and understand that we need some change in the club. Understand that maybe we need to freshen up a few positions. I've seen a lot of people go in on Sadio Mane this week. He's not had as great a season, no doubt about that, nor has Firmino. Nor has even Mohamed Salah by his highest standards. But Salah has, again, hit 20 goals for the 3rd consecutive season, which is the first Liverpool player to do that in the Premier League era, by the way. So you got to give Mo that. But the way some people have been abusing our players is just unacceptable. And when you have to have Sam Maxima come out and defend one of our own from one of our fans and say, I appreciate you wanting me to come to your club, but don't disrespect Sadio Mane that way, it's a bit disappointing. So we've went through a week when football fans showed the best side of football for 72 hours. We came together, we fought a good fight, we voiced our concerns, we said we didn't want the Super League, we talked about the owners, and then immediately it's right back to toxicity. Right back to it straight away. We need to be better than this. We need to keep... I told you at the time, and I'm going to say it again now. This isn't over. We need to keep pulling together, and we need to stay behind the players and the manager, and it's the owners that need to be the people that are at the other end of our ire and our anger. So just keep that, and don't be having a go at our players, because they're up against it this year already. Some of them have lost loved ones, some of them have had COVID, and it's been a shit show, and it hasn't been good enough. I absolutely admit it. But we do need to go out this summer and address some players and move some people on. So with that being said, let's have a talk around the big name transfer that's doing the rounds today. The potential for Liverpool to go and sign Ousmane Dembele from Barcelona. Now, I want to put this in some context. Normally I wouldn't address these rumours. Normally I'd sit here and say, no, Dembele from Barcelona, not going to happen. But he has 1 year left on his contract at the end of this season. Can Barcelona offer him enough money to keep him to stay? Can they give him a new bumper contract? Probably not, particularly if there's no Super League money coming their way. They've got the situation with Messi to deal with. They've got their own players they want to bring in. Gini Wijnaldum, Memphis Depay, players like that look like they could be going there on free transfers. So, off the bat it seems, yeah, Dembele to Liverpool, no. Too injury prone, people will say. Not good enough, some others will say. But I don't know. I don't know if this is the right time for the right player, for the right price, in the right moment. I think I've said time and moment there, but allow me off that one. Dembele for 40 million, if that's the price. 40 to 50 million is the price being mentioned by a couple of outlets. But 1 year left on his contract. What do you think? Yes or no? Let me know in the chat. And if you're watching this back later on, let me know. Now, I don't want him to come in to replace anybody. I want him to come in if he's going to come in. And if he doesn't come in, I want Rafinha. And if he doesn't come in, I want Neto. And if he doesn't come in, I want another pacey wide forward. Because the talk of the Kylian Mbappes and the Haalands and all that stuff, put it out the door. We're not getting Champions League football. We're not attracting these players. I don't mind what Klopp says, that he doesn't want players to come in just to play Champions League football. It does attract them. And to the players who will want new bumper contracts this summer, who will renegotiate with Liverpool, I would say to them, the reason we're not in the Champions League this season is partly down to you guys. So don't go throwing your toys down the pram and looking to force your way out of the football club, because we're not in the Champions League, or we won't be in the Champions League, because of the way that these players have played on the pitch. So they're not innocent in all of this either. What else we got? I don't want Dembele, said Daniel O'Brien. A year without silverware. I know, mate, and it's extremely disappointing coming off the back of a really good season. Off the back of a really good few seasons, actually. I want him to be squad depth, which is part of my point. If we don't move on any of our front four, if we don't move... Obviously, Jota's going nowhere, he's only in the door. If we don't move on Salah, Firmino, Mane, Dembele to me would be a perfect addition to the squad. Not to replace anybody, but addition. Now, if you are talking about replacing somebody, which is another, when I said at the start of the stream, I wanted to have a grown-up conversation about it. If we are going to replace somebody, then it should be a Jadon Sancho. Then it should be somebody of that ilk that Liverpool are looking to bring in. So who do you move on then? This is the really tricky part. We know Mohamed Salah has 2 years left on his deal at the end of this season. That's the time where clubs usually sit down and negotiate with players. And who has the upper hand right now? I would suggest probably Mohamed Salah does, because he can point to the fact that, okay, maybe he's missed opportunities. Maybe Liverpool haven't been as clinical this season, but he's still put the numbers up. He's still gone 3 years in a row putting 20 goals a season in. So he'll point to that, and rightly so, because I've been as annoyed with Salah as anybody else. Some of the chances he's missed. I don't find him greedy, by the way. I think all forwards are inherently greedy. Nor do I find Mane greedy. I think you're supposed to be greedy. You're only greedy if you miss, basically, as a forward. If you take the chance, you're a hero. If you miss, you're greedy. That's the way it works at times, ladies and gents. So, who would you like to see move on? Be realistic about it. If we have to move on somebody this summer, I know that the answers are most likely going to be Mane and Firmino, because I've tried this before. I've had this conversation before. So I want to know what you guys think, and I want to know who you think is an adequate or perfect replacement. No 12th man for this season for the fans, but it's been the same for every club, mate. It was the same for Manchester City. They went out there this season, got the job done. They're in the semi-finals of the Champions League. They've lifted the League Cup today. We beat them last season, and we beat them by quite a comfortable margin as well. But they've went out and addressed things and came back fighting, and that's what I want from us next year. But that includes the manager going out there and being given the funds to go out and improve the squad, because it needs freshening up. Some of these guys have been together now for too long. They don't have competition. We used to say, well, what happens with Firmino? What happens with Salah and Mane? They look to the bench, they see Divock Origi or Ryan Brewster or Shaqiri. Not really players at the time that struck fear into the heart of them. Now we've got Jota in, but now we're starting to play with a front four. Is that because, that was always the plan? I don't think so. I think the plan was always to play with the midfield trio of Fabinho, Henderson and Gini, or Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, and then have three and rotate. But we've seen this season as well that players are starting to pick up knocks and injuries, and Firmino hasn't been himself. And you're right to say that Mane hasn't been himself, because he hasn't. So what have we got? Let's have a look. Let's have a little poll in the chat here and see what everyone thinks. And by the way, I hope you've all had a lovely weekend. And thank you for coming in. And thank you for making this an amazing week for our channel. A week that we'll never forget. As you can see, top left corner, we've hit 100,000 subscribers. We owe a lot of thanks, and I'll go through them. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank our moderators. I want to thank opposition fans. I want to thank all the little pricks that trolled me over the last few years and told me to go kill myself, call me a nonce, and everything else. Because I would have given up a long time ago if it wasn't for all of you people filling me full of such anger that I wanted to come on here and prove a point. And I think we've proved the point that we can grow one of the world's biggest LFC communities outside of Liverpool. That we can give people a platform to have their say. That we can welcome in fans of all different races, religions, colours, sexual orientation, and length of time supporting the club, because that's something that annoyed me. That's one of the reasons we started this channel. I was sick of seeing Liverpool fans spoken down to. I was sick of feeling a little bit disenfranchised from the football club that I supported for 31 years. I was sick of people who were thinking that they knew more about it just because they're from a certain postcode or because they've supported the club longer than others. And I include myself in this, because I've absolutely been arrogant at times with regards to how long I've supported the club against other people, or how well I know the game compared to other people. So I like to think that over the past few years the channel has kind of fallen in its own place and brought people in and given them a safe environment to have their say. And yeah, sometimes I'm a cranky son of a bitch, and I apologise for that. But I just want to take a little second to say a massive thank you to you all. So you don't need fans, Craig. They have huge dough, which is true. I was having a good weekend up until Newcastle, said Michael Mitchell, which is, mate, it ruined my weekend as well, and I get you. Loads of people talking about Ismaila Sarr as well. Liverpool did look at him before Diogo Jota, and I wonder with Watford coming back up, are Watford going to have any interest in selling Sarr? My first thought would be no, they wouldn't, but again, we'll wait and see. Should have bought Bruno Fernandes. Well, we didn't. I think bringing Son from Spurs, it's going to be an interesting summer, isn't it, at Spurs, because Harry Kane is going to go, or at least try and force his way out. Now, Daniel Levy hasn't got a position of strength at the minute because he's been part of this Super League nonsense, and Spurs fans aren't best pleased with him. They lost the cup final today. So will Kane try and force that move out? What's for it? the fact that he's a very good footballer, he's in his prime years. What's against it? He's got 3 years left on his contract because he signed a 6-year deal. Who'll come in as manager? Will they be able to attract a decent manager if they get rid of Kane and Son? Probably not. But then again, do we give a fuck? No, not our problem. Have I got any news on Sancho? Nothing. The only links I've seen to Jadon Sancho, ladies and gentlemen, have been the links that were going around from some outlet I've never heard of before that suggested that Liverpool were going to offer €100 million. I've not heard anything to confirm that, genuinely. I'm as in the dark as everybody else, and anyone I've reached out to on this, whether it be people that I know in Germany, because as I've said to you guys before, Germany and Spain are probably my 2 strongest countries with regards to people I can reach out to for information. I actually have very, very little people in the UK that I reach out to. And here's the reason why. So, I put this into a Discord group the other day. Since Brendan Rodgers left Liverpool Football Club, and I'm not blaming Rodgers for this, by the way. Maybe a coincidence, maybe that Liverpool tightened things up, I don't know. But since Rodgers left Liverpool, if you think back to any of the transfer stories and the news that has broken since, it hasn't really been UK journalists that are breaking the news. It's been at the other end. So the clubs Liverpool are buying off, or the countries that Liverpool are buying players from. It's been at that end that we've seen all the leaks. It's been at that end that we've heard the information about the players. So sometimes having the German and the Spanish contacts is actually a little bit better, because there isn't really much coming out of England these days. Liverpool keep a tight ship with regards to even injuries, even getting updates on how players are and stuff like that. Very vague, very cloak and dagger. No Champions League could really hurt us in the transfer market. I'd love to sit here and say it won't. I'd love to do what Jurgen Klopp does and come on here and say that we don't want players that are only in it for Champions League football. But look, the truth is that it will hurt us a little bit if we don't get Champions League football. It will set us back financially. There was something doing the rounds that said Liverpool would have made like £750 million from playing 3 games in the Super League. That's the type of money that was on the table there. So you can see where the owners were looking for the greedy option. I've no idea who that guy is from Reading, Khalid. Thank you for the super chat, mate. But again, I will have a look out for him and I appreciate your input. Leon Bailey would be class. Again, good young player. I think he's a Jamaican international, if my memory's right. Full of pace. Absolutely tons of pace, Leon Bailey. But I haven't watched enough of Leverkusen this season. I haven't actually paid much interest in German football this season. But again, somebody who, I don't know, is he at our level? Like, realistically, would Leon Bailey be able to come in and compete with the players that we have as a wide player? Or would we be better off investing that time and effort into Harvey Elliott? Oxlade-Chamberlain should play more, but Klopp doesn't trust him. It's a fair point. I mean, often at times we do look around at players who have been fit, like Oxlade-Chamberlain or Shaqiri, and you wonder, is it that the manager doesn't trust them, or is there another reason that we're not aware of? I don't know. It's a good point though, but I think I'd happily sell Chamberlain if the right offer came in. If Salah wants to leave, we should let him go and bring in Sancho, said Yorkshire T. This is a big, big summer around Mohamed Salah, by the way, because, as I said, he's got 2 years left on his deal at the end of this season, and we are not going to want to get into a situation where Mohamed Salah gets into the last 18 months towards 1 year of his contract, because that's no good for us whatsoever. So it is going to be a massive summer. Do the owners sit down with Mohamed Salah and give him what he wants and his agent wants? And I've no idea what they're asking for, by the way. I'm just spitballing and putting it out there. Or do they say, right, well, now he's at his prime, maybe at the tipping point where he could have peaked, is this the right time to cash in and sell? Or do they look to move on somebody like Mane or Bobby Firmino? It's going to be very interesting, but we can't work off sentiment. We've got to be ruthless, because this season has not been good enough for anybody. Not been good enough for you, not been good enough from the players. The manager has made all the mistakes as well. With regards to substitutions, leaving things too long, there's so much stuff we could have done better. And I hope everybody has learned from this season. We don't need a midfield. Of course we need a midfield, Joshua. I don't mean if we meant midfield, but either way we do. I wouldn't want to sell Oxlade-Chamberlain, said Beta Jake. And I can understand your sentiment, mate, and your attachment to him, but looking from the cold, hard, factual point of view, what has he brought to us this season? And I know you'll say, what has Naby Keita brought to me? Or us, excuse me. And I hear you. But what has Chamberlain done? I can't think of much this year, honestly. I hope Salah stays. He's a phenomenal footballer. Mate, we all love Mohamed Salah. And I'll be as happy as anybody if he signs a new Liverpool contract and commits the next 3 to 5 years of his... well, 3 more on top of the 2 years he has. Hi Craig, congrats on 100k. Thank you, Ben. Much love, mate. Appreciate that. Right time to cash in on any of our front three? I would say yes. Now, I would. For me, I think the common sense move would be Mane or Firmino. But I don't know if I'm letting Salah's numbers gloss over something for me, because there is a fair conversation of those numbers have to be replaced. Those goals have to be replaced. So is it an out-and-out number 9? Well, if it is, I'd like to think that it's not Salah we're moving on to bring in an out-and-out number 9. I would think that then it's more likely to move on to Bobby Firmino. And it absolutely kills me to talk about that because he's my favourite player. But I can't see Klopp sanctioning the sale of Bobby Firmino. I just think Klopp trusts him too much, believes in him too much, and he's Klopp's boy out on the pitch. I honestly don't think Liverpool will sell, under Klopp, will sell Bobby Firmino. So that leaves us with Sadio Mane, whom, as I touched on at the start of the stream, a lot of people were giving a lot of flack to over the weekend. And I thought all of our forwards were awful in that game against Newcastle. There's a lot of them guilty of missing opportunities. Salah should have had a hat-trick. Yes, Mane should have scored. Firmino had a couple of chances as well. Jota wasn't great. But we need to keep Bobby. Well, then what do we do? That's what I'm asking. Because we know that our owners are going to be tight. We know that they're not going to give Klopp 200 million to spend this summer. We know that it's likely going to be a small amount of money plus whatever we make from sales. And that's the fact. That's what we've been working with every single season. So yes, we'll see the good news put out there and the positive PR spin around Canade. But that's also a good business move. That's a good investment for Liverpool Football Club. A young French international centre-back for what? £40 million? Maybe even a little bit less than that. So that's a no-brainer. Kabak, again, I would suggest pretty much a no-brainer from a business perspective. So then what do we do? If you want a Jadon Sancho this summer, I'm not going to say Haaland or Mbappe because it's not realistic, but if you want Liverpool to go out there and drop over 50 million on a player, we're going to have to sell one of the front three. Because unless the owners really want to win hearts and minds and start issuing checks, I can't see how anything changes from any other transfer window we've had. Bring new owners in, FSG too tight. Okay, we sell the club tomorrow. We sell it to an investment bank who come in, mortgage the club to buy it, have interest repayments like Hicks and Gillette did, which takes away from the transfer budget. Don't want to keep the squad there. So what do we do then? Or we get other owners that come in and are like sugar daddies. Don't give a shit about FFP. Don't give a shit about the history of the club and just throw money at the problem. What if they get bored and walk away? So I'm with you. But I'm just trying to be devil's advocate tonight and trying to just make a conversation and have a grown-up conversation from both sides of the fence here. That's the thing, it should be realistic. Mate, do I think that we should be able to go out and drop 100 million on top of sales this year? Yeah, I do. Even in a pandemic. Because the owners have had capital freed up. Now I know that they're free to invest that however they will, and they will say that a lot of that's been used to offset the cost that we've suffered, the losses we've suffered during the global pandemic. But the old questions are still there. What happened to the Champions League money? What happened to the Premier League money? What happened to the TV rights money? Where did all that go? And yes, we have a relatively high wage. Overall, a relatively high turnover to wage ratio compared to other clubs. Whether you like to believe that or not, it's true. And yes, we overspend on agents. Look at how much Liverpool has spent over the past few years on agents compared to other clubs. We're right up there at the sharp end, which I don't like to see either because it's more money gone out of the game. And also, Liverpool bring people in and give them highly incentivised contracts. That means that if they come in, they play well, they hit their targets, their wages can be bumped up. That's usually good to bring players in at the start, but then you have people like Mohamed Salah and stuff who want to come in and start getting paid what he sees other players of his ilk around the world being paid. When you've got David De Gea at Manchester United on 350 grand a week, when you had Alexis Sanchez on 400 odd grand a week, players aren't dumb. Their agents aren't dumb. They know this. That's why I'm saying that we have to have this serious conversation around who goes. Because if we want to rebuild this squad or tweak it, we need to sell. And we need to sell probably a star player. That's a realistic conversation. And whether anybody wants to accuse me of wanting to get rid of a certain player or not, that's over to you. I'm like you guys, I'd love them all to stay, but it is at a point where we've had another shit season after 3 good years, let's say, and off the back of a load of frustrating years, we can't let ourselves fall away to also rans yet again. Dembele is injury prone. He has been. Yeah, no denying that. He had a serious ACL injury, I think it was, kept him out for a very long time. But he's come back and he's played very well for Barcelona this season when he has been available. And he has 1 year left on his contract at the end of this season, which means he can probably be gotten for a reasonable fee. Robertson needs a 2-week rest. Well, look, we've got 5 games left in the league, mate, and that's all we have this season, so I'm sure he'll get somewhat of a rest. Any Stevie G type players available? Rodrigo the Paul Sean looks like he's going to AC Milan, mate, from the news that I've been given anyway. Again, nothing's confirmed until these are done, but it's not unusual for Italian clubs to move and keep players within the league. It's not unusual at all, so I wouldn't be surprised, especially if AC Milan keep up their good form and get Champions League football, which it looks like they're going to do. Ibrahimovic has just renewed for another year as well. As things stand, Inter looks set to win Serie A. It's a battle for second between Juventus and AC Milan, and both of those will go into the Champions League. So Rodrigo de Paul then probably becomes an attractive proposition. He knows the league, probably fancies a move to Milan. So I would imagine that might as well, or might actually happen, I should say, excuse me. We should replace Mane, said Sultan Al-Shukri, or Shukri, excuse me. Right, let's play game 2. All of our forwards are up for sale. So let's play Fantasy Manager here for a minute, everyone. All of our forwards are up for sale, except Jota, because he's only in the door. No way we're selling him. How much is Mane worth? How much is Firmino worth? And how much is Salah worth in this market? Because I've tried to play this game myself, and I've tried to put prices on them in my head. And I don't want to tell you what they are, because I don't want to influence your potential answers. But give me the 3 prices. What would you sell Mane for? What would you sell Firmino for? What would you sell Salah for? People keep saying Sarr, and again, we were interested. The Pozzi family obviously own Watford. They've just been promoted back to the Premier League. Congratulations to Watford and Norwich, by the way, for both coming back up. So if they didn't sell him when they got relegated, will they want to sell him when they come back up? Or will they want to try and establish themselves as a Premier League club again and keep them here, or keep them there, I should say. Mane is 100 million, said Luke. Mane is 120 million. Salah is 150 million. Mane 80, Firmino 60, Salah 120. Stefan, that's exactly the numbers I had in my head, mate. I'm right with you on that one. This is Stefan, I'm not sure how you pronounce the name. They're the numbers I had in my head. Mane 80, Firmino 60, Salah 120. You know, non-COVID world, Salah probably 150, more likely. I'm talking pounds sterling here, by the way, folks, not euros. Firmino 40 million. I would like to think he's worth more than that, Jacob, but nobody's got any money apparently, which is also true, which is a good point. Will we see a lot more part exchanges this summer, or loans with an option to buy, or longer loans, like the 2-year loan, for instance, Coutinho went for at one point. People might think Mane's worth 100 million plus. Your guys are deluded. I don't think he's worth 100 million. I think around the 80 million mark's probably right for him. Bobby 50, again, probably in the realms of realistic. 50 to 60, I think, for Bobby. And for me, anything over 100 for Salah, or for Mohamed Salah, would be the right kind of numbers. But we are in a world where who buys them? So it's easy me sitting here and saying, right, let's get 120 million for Mohamed Salah. Who pays it? Let's go through the clubs. Real Madrid, we know that they want Haaland and Mbappe, and they can't afford them. Barcelona, we know they're strapped. We're not going to sell them to another Premier League club, let's be honest about that. So the only other option then is potentially Paris Saint-Germain, if they move on Kylian Mbappe. I don't know if Mohamed Salah has any interest in going and playing in France, but that's the only real club I can think of that would have the finances to go and get Mohamed Salah. So it's easy we say move them on and sell them, but somebody has to be a willing buyer as well. And they have to be willing to pay the agent's fee, so they have to be willing to pay the wages that the player wants. So, yeah, it's not as simple as we all think. Pulisic's a lovely shout, and I'd happily have Christian Pulisic at Liverpool. I wanted him in the first place before he went to Chelsea, but will Chelsea want to sell? They're building something good. Let's be quite honest at the moment right there. With Thomas Tuchel, with the players that they have, And they're going to probably be looking for an out-and-out striker this summer as well. Bobby 45, Mane 95, Salah 150. I don't think Mohamed Salah goes for £150 million. I think probably 120, but that's just my own opinion. Tammy Abraham is nowhere near good enough. He's not good enough for Chelsea. He's definitely not going to be good enough to come in for us, in my opinion. Again, of course, these are all just opinions and everyone's entitled to their own. Would I sell Minamino? Yeah, that's an interesting one. Probably. We could have done with him now, don't get me wrong, but it looks like his card's marked. It looks like that he is going to get moved on. And I wouldn't be surprised if he actually stays at Southampton, if they actually end up signing him. Lautaro Martinez is a very good shout, but with Inter qualifying for the Champions League, winning Serie A most likely this season, the formidable partnership he has with Romelu Lukaku, will Inter's owners want to sanction a sale? Unless, again, they're going to want to go big. But I do like the idea of Martinez. He's a quality footballer that would work in our system very well. Would I sell Harry Wilson? Yes, I would. Absolutely. Did FSG reject the bid? Yes, they rejected a bid of about 3 billion for Liverpool Football Club. So, what? They bought him for 300 million. Look, well, even less than 300 million. I think it was about 280. And they turned down an offer of about 3 billion. So, but apparently there are still people willing to test their resolve, and if they are looking to sell, I don't think there'll be any shortage of buyers out there because it's Liverpool Football Club. Did somebody really just suggest McBurney? Honest to God. Come on, mate. Grab a hold of yourself there. Give yourself a shake. We'll sign Neuhaus again, or will we sign? I don't know. I know we're linked with him, but I can't tell you if we will sign him or not. Even reaching out to the people I know in Germany, I can't get a straight answer on the Neuhaus thing. Insigne's not going to Liverpool, mate. He's not good enough either, by the way. I mean, he's been at Napoli that long. He flatters to deceive whenever I watch him. Would I take Watkins? It depends. Because I see in Watkins a similar type of Firmino. Somebody who is a very good workhorse, somebody who has pace, somebody who has a good ability, but he's not going to get you 25 goals every season. He's not the out-and-out number 9. I know he scored a good amount of goals this season for Villa, and I know he did well at Brentford, but when I watch him, he doesn't have the instincts of like a Sergio Aguero, a Harry Kane, a real striker. And I think that's what we need. That's the thing we don't have in our squad right now. Is somebody, as Michael Owen said, he looks at Salah, he looks at Mane, amazing players, but not natural finishers. And I don't think that Ollie Watkins is a natural finisher. So I think if we are to get a centre forward, it should be a predator. It should be somebody, a 6-yard box merchant. You look annoyed. Nah, I'm just tired, man. I'm not annoyed at all. I'm just really tired. It's been, as I'm sure you can imagine, one hell of a week. And I've been non-stop all week. 8 to 12 hour days every single day for the past 7, man. I'm just tired. I'm not in a bad mood, I can promise you. Saint-Maximin's a good conversation. Of the two there, I'd take Saint-Maximin over Adama Traore. I would. Now, I don't know if I would want either of them in, but if I had to pick one of those two, I like more. I think Saint-Maximin is a bit more of an end product to me than Adama. Plus, Adama Traore has that shoulder injury that he's had for quite a while, where he's dislocated his shoulder 6 or 7 times over the past couple of years. So, yeah. Malen, again, somebody who we haven't spoken about tonight much, and again, very good point. Daniel Malen, the guy from PSV Eindhoven, he looks legit. Himself and Patson Daka wouldn't surprise me. Either of those two wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, you always take a bit of a gamble if you're buying from the Eredivisie, of course, because it's easy for a player to look good there, but all the reports and stuff on Malen seem to suggest like he has that work ethic. He has what Klopp would look for. And Patson Daka is still putting up numbers for Salzburg, so that's a good show. That is a very good show. And the Silva, the guy from Frankfurt, Andre Silva, is he from Frankfurt or is he at Milan? I know he was at one and then he went. I think he's back at Frankfurt, isn't he? Yes, another name that's been doing the rounds, but I don't know if he's a Jurgen Klopp type of player. Or I haven't seen any serious links to him to Liverpool, but that doesn't mean anything. I didn't see links to Jota either, and that happened. I'd love, I don't know who that is. Sorry. And again, I'm really wary about calling out names because people are always trying to set me up, but I don't know who that is. Could be cheap. We're Hertha looking for, they're getting relegated. Have you seen much of him worth a look? I don't know anything about that guy. So I'll let you guys see it in the chat. Matthias, Cunha. I don't know anything about him at all. Daka is a fox in the box type striker. And again, Daka is the type of player that would make perfect sense if we didn't move any of our forwards on, because you're only talking about 25 million quid, a realistic amount. Would I take Suarez or Memphis? Suarez, yes and no. I mean, he didn't even start tonight for Atleti in a crucial game for them. He can't run anymore, but he does know where the goal is and could be a decent impact player. What was the other option? Memphis, no. I've never liked Memphis Depay. It just seems too much of a diva for me. And it looks like he's going to go to Barcelona on a free contract anyway. Loads of people talking about Sarr. I've already addressed him on a couple of occasions. Would I take Lewandowski? Well, ask yourself this. Do you think Munich are going to get rid of Lewandowski? So why even ask the question? He's not going anywhere. Vlahovic scored for Fiorentina today. That's another name that I've been told to keep an eye on as well. Somebody actually just emailed me about him. Again, don't know much about him, but there are enough people talking about him that he must be having a decent season. So, again, another name there, Dusan Vlahovic. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, from Fiorentina. Good shout. You can forget about Tielemans and Harvey Barnes and anybody else from Leicester City, because they're going to be in the Champions League. We're probably not going to be in the Champions League, and Leicester don't sell unless they get top dollar. We know that. They've got very good owners. Look at the money that they got for Maguire. They're not a selling club, Leicester. They want to build something there. So I think we can forget about dipping our toes in the Leicester water, because they won't sell unless they get astronomical money, and we're not going to go and pay over the odds. Dybala is pie in the sky stuff. That's not going to happen either. Backup keeper is an interesting one, because I'd seen something the other day about Adrian saying that he might sign on for another year. Well, look, we all hope he doesn't. I think we can honestly and openly say that, because he's not good enough. What happens to Queeveen Kelleher? That's going to be interesting, because do you send him out on loan or does he get the number 2 spot? The only name we've ever been linked with really is Erkan Kikir, and again, he's been linked to every club in Europe now over the past few weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a really busy week. I'm going to say goodnight to you all. I will be back tomorrow. We're recording the Anfield Agenda podcast at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We're then going to be doing a live stream at 7 o'clock. And then I'm going to be over, because I've got one more thing I need to do on Mundo Sport. I'm going to be doing the Leicester Palace game on there tomorrow night, because we have agreements that we have to do certain games and stuff. So we're going to do that tomorrow night. Thank you all so much for everything over the past week and the past 3 years. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button before you head off. Drop a like on the video as well. Really appreciate all of your time. It's been a frustrating season. We're all looking to get rid of the season. We're all looking to the back of it and ahead to next year. Have yourselves a wonderful Sunday evening. Thank you so much for everything. I'll talk to you soon.